6% interest and the ability to access your money again at any time within seconds. That sounds great, doesn't it? But Bondora Go Grow has a big problem. We investors are currently flooding the product with money, and that could soon lower the returns for all of us. Why I see it that way and how I will invest in Go Grow in 2026, you'll find out now on Northern Finance. My name is Alex Black.
Hi, my name is Alex from Northern Finance. This video was translated with the help of AI so that we can reach more people in their own language. A native speaker has reviewed the translation. Still, some sentences might sound a little unusual. Thanks for being here and enjoy the video now.
Yes, I currently have 9,170 euros invested in Bondora Go Grow, and 2,400 euros of that is already interest. Yes, more than I would have thought, which has just accumulated here over the past few years. 6,760 euros of that is principal. Here, as private investors, we invest in a large and diverse pool of Bondora loans and receive, yes, this 6% return, which is currently being paid out daily in small portions. At the very same time, we can access the money again every day, and in just a matter of a few seconds, the money is back in your bank account, which is certainly the most significant and biggest advantage for many investors. The flexibility to use the product exactly the way you want. And the whole thing still works very reliably to this day, which is truly remarkable. And certainly, yes, the second biggest advantage besides liquidity is that it has simply worked well for such a long time. Since the launch of Bondora Go Grow in 2018, there have also been some changes. Back then, in 2018, there was still a 6.75% return per year on all deposited funds, and these were also credited with interest daily. But yes, during Corona, Bondora received significantly too much money from its investors compared to the loan portfolio that was being newly issued to borrowers each month. For that reason, yes, payment limits were introduced here. At first, there was a 400 euro deposit limit per month, and later it was increased to 1,000 euros. Anything above that went into the new product Go Grow Unlimited, which only delivered 4% interest. This product also, yes, worked well. The interest was credited to investors' accounts daily, as planned. But for this level of risk, 4% interest was clearly too low for me, I have to say. And that's why I didn't want to deposit more than the monthly limit here. A short while after that, the deposit limit was then significantly increased from 400 euros to 1,000 euros, which was more than enough again for most investors. But anyone who didn't already have an account with Bondora here couldn't just invest, say, 10,000 euros or more all at once, but instead had to increase their investment here very slowly. Of course, that's a bit annoying. However, these deposit limits were completely abolished at the end of 2024, but at the same time, the interest rate was also reduced from 6.75 to just 6%. With these changes, the Go Grow Unlimited product was also discontinued, as it was no longer needed. And now there is only the regular Bondora Go Grow, and everyone receives the same interest rate, the new rate of 6%, which you can also see here in my account. With that, I receive €1.46 in interest every day, and it comes in very reliably. Here you can also see my portfolio performance, the software I use to track all my investments in detail. And Bondora is my fourth largest P2P loan investment overall, with more than 9,100 euros, as you can see up here. And I started tracking my investments this closely at the beginning of 2022. As you can see here, I initially put in 6,800 euros and then increased my investment to 8,660 euros by mid-2023. After that, I withdrew 5,000 euros in one go. That also went really smoothly without any problems, and I did it because I was dissatisfied with the level of transparency here at the time. And after that, I let the investment continue, yes, even topped it up a bit, collected interest, and then withdrew one last 1,000 euros here. After that, however, the transparency improved significantly, and in the summer and fall of 2025, I started investing a lot more money here again. By now, I've actually invested more than ever here on Bondora, and with that, I've earned 43 to 46 euros passively in the last 2 months. And that's going to keep increasing in the coming months. And if you want to invest here as well, just click the link below in the video description. With that, you'll get an extra bonus that you don't get with the regular sign up. And with that, we now come to the big problem with Bondora. As you can clearly see right here on the detailed statistics page, we can also look up the various investments made, and just last month they were at an absolutely incredible 51.1 million euros. That's more than ever before. If we scroll down a bit, we can see here the total amount of loans granted, and in the same previous month, January 2026, that was only 29.4 million euros. And of course, that's quite a significant imbalance. So I wanted to check how long this has actually been the case and carefully put together this table here. In this table, I have manually entered all investments and the loans granted by Bondora over the past 13 months. And if we take a look at the month of January, we can see that 32 million euros were invested, while only 25.6 million euros in loans were granted. This results in a difference, also called delta, of 6.3 million euros. When we look at this expressed as a percentage, Bondora received 24.9% more money than they actually needed. I also use several distinct colors here to help make the magnitude of the various values significantly clearer. And in February, the delta was significantly smaller, at 3.1 million euros, or just 13% more than necessary. And in March, this value was even negative. This way, they were able to nicely offset the previous month. But unfortunately, things didn't continue this way, because especially in the fall and winter of 2025, the high investments from investors became a problem. In October alone, 17 million euros more were deposited than were actually needed, and in November it was 12, in December 15 million euros, and in January 2026 the previous record was reached with 21.6 million euros more in investments than new loans. That's 73% more investments than are needed. You really have to, just take a moment to let that sink in, because that's quite a magnitude and it starts to get a bit critical. So what do you do with all that money now? Because you have to invest it, since you also have to pay returns to the investors. And if we add it all up, we see that Bondora actually received 101 million euros more in the last 13 months than they were reasonably able to issue as new loans and invest here. Or to put it another way, they received 26.9% too much. That actually amounts to a total of 7.8 million euros per month that Bondora is unable to utilize in the way they would like. And yes, for a certain period of time, this strategy can certainly work out. There is no question about that. For example, by refinancing higher interest debt from banks or private debt funds. But at some point, something will inevitably have to change. This can't go on like this forever. Either the interest rates will drop or there will be deposit limits again. Those are the two options I see, or in the worst case, both will happen. I estimate that this will happen sometime this year if the current situation remains as it is now. I've illustrated the whole thing here again in a graphic to make it easier to follow. The investments are shown here in this light green shade, the loans granted in blue, and the difference between the two, the delta, in dark blue. And up until July, August, and September, the values were still relatively close to each other, even though more was regularly invested than new loans actually issued. But since October of the year 2025, the difference here has kept getting significantly larger, and most recently was at a total of 21 million euros in just one single month. And Bondora talks about a strong end of the year in their latest blog post, and that's it. But if Bondora doesn't significantly expand some of the loan markets they currently have soon, not just the Finnish market, which, well, makes up 2/3 of all loans, then either the interest rates will have to drop or the deposit limits will have to be reactivated. Or they could open up an entirely new loan market and scale it up very quickly, but I think that's relatively unlikely. Let's sum it up. Bondora is very successful. So successful, in fact, that for months now they've been receiving significantly more money than they can put to good use. Yes, which could become a problem in the medium and long term, but I'd say that's a good problem to have. There are definitely worse problems out there. For me personally, Bondora Go and Grow 2026 is definitely worth it, since Bondora was founded in 2008 and, as the oldest P2P lending platform, has survived every crisis so far. Now we're facing a slightly different kind of crisis, but I'm confident they'll overcome this one as well. I think it clearly speaks in favor of Bondora that they are currently receiving so much more money than they actually need. And I will definitely stay invested in Bondora and continue to increase my investment here, as long as the return, and this is important, remains at 6%. If that should no longer be the case, I will make an update about it here on Northern Finance. To make sure you don't miss it, leave me a like and subscribe, and I will probably then shift part of my investment to other peer-to-peer lending platforms in my large $107,000 peer-to-peer lending portfolio, for example to Monefit Smart Saver. That's a very similar product from the larger Credit Star group, in which I am also heavily invested, even more so than in Bondora. They shouldn't encounter such problems so quickly at Credit Star. Yes, they basically have even more room for growth, but if I were planning to invest more in Bondora Go and Grow this year, I would probably do it right away before any new deposit limits of this kind are introduced by the platform, because the likelihood of something like that happening increases month by month with such numbers, more and more. As mentioned, the bonus link to Bondora is down in the video description, and now I'm curious to hear your opinion. What do you think? Will Bondora, in this situation, reintroduce these limits, lower the interest rates, or do something completely different? And would you also accept less than 6% return here? Let me know in the comments below. I'm looking forward to the exchange, and with that, I wish you good returns and see you next time.